Good morning. I was surprised at turned it on this whole too long, it's been any criticism. I don't know what the exact figures are, and I don't know what the comparison is to any other, but I think if you like the show, even if it's your least favourite, you're probably going to forgive it. I think there are certain aspects of this because it was actually Colin's first story, which are also going to make it of value to people, and I think some people enjoyed it. Obviously they didn't bought it. I can't say I'm surprised. That would be an odd thing for me to say, wouldn't it? I'm very surprised at something I did, so it would be an odd thing for me to say. I'm surprised that there wasn't more uproar about something like Timelash, but then maybe that says something about the isms of people who watch the show. That would be more of a surprise to me than Twitter now.
Do you think Colin got a raw deal?
In which sense?
Well, that he wasn't hard back. Because he was a pretty good actor, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Colin is a very good actor. He does have a very good reputation in the business. Despite what Peter Davison was trying to tell me. Yes, I mean, I think that, without going into details, I think that the whole situation about why the program stopped for a short while and Colin's whole situation there was very difficult, and I think it was unfortunately, it was the fact that it was no longer professional, and that's what really bothers me more than anything when it becomes personal instead of professional. I mean, we've all got jobs to do, whatever those jobs are, and we all have to know what that involves and what the limits of those are, and I think when people start getting personal, then that's when I start being annoyed. And when people get personal, then I think we need to back them up and say, excuse me, this is not. So yeah, I did feel like it became an audio.
Yes, sir. Video camera.
Good morning.
Morning. Okay, do you collect Doctor Who merchandise or have kept any of the props used from the show?
Yes, I've got a wonderful story actually about when I did Planet of Fire, the spaceship that was Turner's ship that was the wreck of found and mutants, which was the planet, etc. I saw this in the back lot of the studio, and I was talking to the guy who made it, and I said, you know, how amazing it was, and I said, well, what are you going to do with it? And he said, well, chuck it. He said, well, you know, finish the show, we're on to the next one, and you can't store this kind of stuff, I'm going to throw it away. So I said, can I have it? And he said, yes, of course you can. And I gave it to my father, and he hung it up, and because it was on a sort of like plate, and so he just like covered the rest of the plate with sand, and like buried it in the sand, which was all built on this plate. So my father just turned it upside down and hung it up on the study wall. And people just walk in with it. I think it's mon art or something. I paid a fortune for it. Yes, they're worth $2 million. So they probably believe it. But this spaceship was just sitting up on the study wall. Now, I would like to have collected more things than I have. And it's one of those things in hindsight as well, because the number of charity auctions and things like that, you think, oh yeah, I've done that with every little model there was. I might put them in a little box and collected them, and then every time I went to a convention, I could like give that and make a lot of money. And I wish I'd done that, but I just didn't do that. And I think it's sad that actually in a way, because I was in a position to know that the merchandise was going to raise that kind of money, that somebody would actually really like that thing. I was seeing it as personal things like this is a show I was in rather than somebody else might like it. And I think it's sad that the BBC don't take those things or didn't take those things like these shipwrecks and little models and stuff and just put them in a box. They've got the storage. And just when there are conventions and stuff, hand them over to guests who are going places so that they can make some money for charity. It just seems very sad when they get thrown away. The unfortunate thing is now that people do ask me for things, and I don't have them. I've run out of everything that I had that was possible to bring, you know. And I wish I did. I feel very guilty when people say, can you just bring an olive or something? My heart aches. I think I didn't have a little something. You know, anything you've got left is a few photographs. But the only other thing I brought back was something that was totally illegal, I confess it. I brought a piece of rock back from Lanzarote, which I'm not supposed to do, because it was very illegal to brought a piece of rock back that would have been Lanzarote left. never actually, he just upset. But I was just so amazed about this rock. I don't see anything like it before. This book was tiny. That's it.
Do you watch any other British science fiction shows? Or?
I'm trying to think what British science fiction shows we have. I don't think we have any at the moment. That's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? It's a good excuse to have good reason for the country to produce one. Can you think
Like Red Dwarf or Blake 7?
Well, Blake 7 isn't on anymore.
The
And I have seen some of Red Dwarf because a friend of mine was a production manager on it.
Did you like it?
Go back. Yes, I did actually. I liked it very much. And hopefully I'll meet you with a couple of those people in November anyway. So that'd be quite nice. But there isn't anything else on. So, I mean, I enjoyed watching Quantum Leap, which we had, and Star Trek, which we had. Yes, I mean, in fact, if there wasn't any other science fiction programs, I would be watching them. Quite definitely. I mean, it was science fiction that I would used to read in school. I mean, my bedroom was, filled with various science fiction books. So it was definitely one of my first choices.
Would you like a chance to act on that door?
Yes, probably, yes. I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, it wasn't a show that I was desperate to be in. It was one I enjoyed watching, which, whereas I wouldn't mind doing Slot in Quantum Leap, that was fun. And I wouldn't mind being Star Trek, but I'd love to be something really disgusting. Like, really, seriously unattractive, but a really nice alien, or something backwards, or a seriously beautiful, disgusting monster, sort of like goes around eating people and something cruel or something, mass serial.
You want to be a Ferengi?
I caught 5 minutes of one yesterday. It's a metamorph. That looks fun. But no, I mean, if there were any more British science fiction shows, then I would definitely watch them. Unfortunately, we're a bit lacking in that department. Nice. Oh dear, I could get stuck in here and sound like you. They should have killed her off. I thought it was, as I suggested, a story that could have been written 20 years ago. There was nothing that said, this has moved on with the times. I thought it was belittling to the assistant. I mean, my character started out as one of the few people who turned around and didn't go, when the master said, I will, obey me. She said, no, go away, why should I, and so she started out like that. So why then did she get worse and regress to something that was like 20 years ago? It just didn't make any sense. And I was saying, I'm sorry, this is not the character I began with. And I was very annoyed about it. And I spent hours in the studio tied to this stupid pole. And the poor director, he kept apologising and kind of said, I'm sorry, but I've looked in this room and got another shot of you tied to the pole. So, would you scream with your head to the left this time? Right, another 5 minutes of screaming with your head to the right. And it was like, how many different ways can I fill in the number of cut-in shots they've got of me still tied to this pole, still screaming at this sort of worm on a stick that was coming towards me. I just hated it so much. I was absolutely furious with it. I thought that there was this tiny, weeny germ of a nice idea that this was how the novel Time Machine had been thought of, and that was it. That's as far as it went, as far as I was concerned. And so much for giving young writers breaks. I think those young ones should go back to the drawing board and start again. I was so frustrated with it. I said enough about this. I think it's terrible, from my point of view.
You like doing theatre in Vienna? You like doing Great Gatsby?
Did I like working in Vienna? Did I like doing Great Gatsby? I mean, definitely, yes, Vienna was wonderful. I mean, wow. But out of Vienna, if you're sort of like a member of the ballet, the Royal Ballet or the Royal Theatre, you can practically get a life membership to that company. So you've got like a pension, a fantastic apartment that they give to you because they think you're wonderful. They treat you like royalty. I mean, And I just couldn't, I was just so impressed by the way they ran everything. I mean, it's a beautiful little theatre. If you ever end up in Vienna, the English-speaking theatre is superb. And the couple who run it, he unfortunately has passed away, but she's still running it. She's a wonderful American actress called Ruth Brinkman. And it's a divine little theatre. It is supported immensely by the British and American embassies and the Canadian embassy, I might add. They threw a party for us. And they were utterly charming. In fact, I went round to the Canadian ambassador's wife's for tea. And they were so... I just couldn't believe that an English show, a foreign-speaking show, was going to run for 3 months in another country. I mean, it wouldn't happen in London. I mean, would it happen here? Would you get a German-speaking show lasting 3 months in your centre of town? No, I mean, I thought, what, it last 3 days in London? People go, what is this? I'm sorry. Oh, wait. I've got half a question to finish. Sorry, yes, he said, he also asked me about The Great Gatsby. Which, for anyone who didn't know, I did the very first and only stage production that they've ever done in Great Britain of The Great Gatsby, playing the Mia Farrow role, to which a lot of people said to me, oh, are you going to wear a blonde wig? To which I said, have you read the novel? No, I've seen the movie. I said, well, why don't you read the novel? Because in the novel it actually talks about Daisy's raven hair. And unfortunately, Mia Farrow should have worn a dark black wig. But that's, he said about the LA versions of great novels, probably best. But it was a terrific part, and I very, very, very much enjoyed playing it. It was very sad to see goodbye to that. Oh yes, definitely. I mean, other than it was perhaps written by the gentleman who did Timelash, which I seriously doubt. He probably doesn't know the person's terrific, and then he's learned his lesson. No, I'd love to, and I just think it would be terrific if they did. I just think, you know, there you are, there's your perfect situation for saying, right, let's do a great big special and bring back a series. Ideal circumstances. But if I got the offer, yes, I definitely would.
I don't know, you probably can ask this a zillion times. I just wondered which ending you preferred for your character, the one where you're bald and you get shot or killed, or the one where you're off with the king and you're having your romance.
I think romance stinks. No, I liked the ending that they had, because it's not the problem that it is in other shows, in that if you kill somebody off, they can't come back. What do they do in Dallas and things like that? Oh, it's just a dream, I was in the shower. For 5 years, you know. Yes. Because all you have to do is go back in time, and if you wanted to, you could always even perhaps go back in time and do the one thing that Tony was going to do, which is medical time. There are so many options that it isn't death as we experience it, or in our lives, or in any other show. So yes, I prefer the more dramatic ending, because I think Doctor Who should be dramatic. You know, I think that's part of what its nature is.
Have you watched your performances on TV, and what objective things do you draw from them?
That's a tough one. I mean, it's really, really tough watching the first time I ever watched myself. Because it was, Jonathan Turner didn't want me to see any of the stuff that we were shooting for the first season that I was there, because he was terrified that I would change what I was doing. And he wanted me to just stay exactly the way I was, and he thought the impact of seeing yourself for the first time, you might go, oh God, I want to do like that, and what? And he would have been upset about that. But it's very weird. I found that I can't watch myself in a room with people if I don't know them, and I find it difficult enough watching it in a room with people I do know, because you become more self-conscious of actually looking at them watching you, because you think, oh. As an actor, I do think it's important to learn from what you do, and so as a technical exercise, yes, I look at what I do, but I look at it on my own, and I look at it technically, and it's like I'm looking at an actress rather than me. But whereas if I'm sitting in the room with my sister or my mother or something, they're watching it, I'm like, did I like that bit? Oh, she liked that bit. You know, and you're more interested in watching them than you are
work when you were killed, like, did you wear a skull cap or did someone actually shave your head?
I wore a skull cap, and the makeup artist I had at the time, he was absolutely brilliant. He did a superb job on that. But the thing about skull caps is that you can only keep them on for so long, and then they start to rise. And we were told that we were going to get this shot in before supper, and we had supper breaks at 6 to 7:30. 6 to 7 you break, and 7 you go back for makeup and the cameras are lined up and you start shooting again at 7:30. And so we started this makeup, putting the skull cap on, and it's a long job if you're going to do it really well. About 3 o'clock, thinking that we're going to be shooting about 4:30. And we got to 4:30, and the scenes that were before me were going extremely slowly. And they just didn't seem to be running too well. And so we got to 5 to 6 and we realised I wasn't going to get on to do this shot before the supper break. So I didn't want to eat because I didn't want to move my jaw too much and have anything that might affect this glue around me. So I sort of sat there all through the supper break waiting to do those shots. And we started shooting again at 7:30. But the first time I walked onto the set, and Colin hadn't seen it before, nobody had seen it. Honestly, I really enjoyed doing that. That was a really fun thing to do. Colin, in his wonderful joking fashion, went, "Oh my God! Oh, you're beautiful!" He sort of made all these jokes about why I didn't always wear that nose, and he was going to shave my head and all this kind of stuff. But I had a problem when we started to shoot it because messages kept coming down from upstairs from the producers and saying, "I'm sorry, because I was like doing all this tones, eyes, and all this stuff." And they said, could you ask Nicola to do that without moving her eyebrows? So I'm trying to be really expressive here, but you don't want me to move my eyebrows. Okay, I'll try that. And then they said, "Look, could you tell her not to like, she's creasing up by her eyes, and then you get this little bit pampering by the ears." So basically, I said, "Would you like me to just stand here and not move my face at all, be totally unexpressive and say the lines?" "Yes," was the message that came down from upstairs. Which was a little frustrating, to say the least. I mean, I managed to sort of like pull out as much as I could without moving my face too much and just using the voice. But I wanted to do even more with that scene than I was allowed to. Most people think it was okay the way it was, and they really liked all that kind of stuff. But I just wanted to be able to just really fill out that face and just go mad. But I couldn't do it because by this point, if I'd done something like that, the whole thing would suddenly go.
Gentlemen, third row.
I was just wondering what was it like working with Alexei Sayle when you were gone?
He's a dream and a scream. It was great fun, actually. I mean, he was totally unpredictable, was the strange thing about working with him, because Graham Harper and I we rehearsed the scene with Alexei, and we got it just the way Graham wanted. He said, "Right, that's terrific." And the next day, we were going to do our run for John Nathan Turner and showing all the rehearsal scenes. And we really did it completely differently. I mean, like, different show. And Graham looked at me and he was like, "I'm going to ask him if we can re-rehearse this. And we rehearsed this scene again. And Alexei got it back the way that Graham had wanted it. And then we ran it again for the producer in the afternoon for John, and he did it differently again. I mean, not the same as he'd done it either time. So Graham said to me, "Whatever we do, we're just going to have to go with however he decides to perform it on the day in the studio. Can you do that?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can, but just so long as you're happy with that." He said, "No, that's fine." So I had no idea how he was going to play this scene when we got to play. Whether he was going to play it really loud and wacky, or whether he was going to play it really like depressed, or I had no idea. And I was just going to have to go with how he played it. But he was wicked too. I mean, he had a great sense of fun because we were sitting waiting in the studio to do the shots, and we were just like doing line-ups and all of that. And we were standing here under this mic, so everybody upstairs in the box, the director and the production assistants, so you can hear every word he was saying. And he said to me, "You're getting good money in this show." And I said, well, it's all right, thank you, Alexei. So they send a car for you in the morning? No, I don't. They don't? Right, I'll sort that one out for you. Do you get a cleanse allowance for when you're sort of like going out in the public? Yeah. He said, right, I'll sort that out. He suddenly starts shouting into this mic. Right, now, excuse me, but I happen to like this girl rather a lot, and I think she's very talented, and until you promise to give her a clothes allowance and a car every morning, I don't mean any old crappy little BBC car, I'm talking about chauffeur-driven, nice car, with a very pleasant person, I'm not going to shoot this scene. It's like holding the studio to ransom. I'm like, oh, that's terribly sweet of you, love, but I'm all right, you know, I'm okay. No, I'm sorry, but you know, until somebody realises that you deserve this, I am not going on. He starts walking on his left. I thought, maybe he's playing, maybe this is some kind of a joke or something. You're never quite sure. So off he goes, and he's sitting in his dressing room, you know, and the director comes down and says, no, it wasn't Greg who came down, it was John Lieutenant came down and said, what is this? Have you been asking for this? I said, no, it's nothing to do with me. No, I'm very happy, John, really, honestly. So I need to go. He said, well, for goodness sake, I've got 15 minutes before we're ready to shoot this scene. You go and have a coffee with him and calm him down or something. So I'm like, hello, Alexei, it's me, Nikki. Hello, come in. So, they agreed yet? I said, yes. I thought it was the simplest way. He goes, yes, everything's going to be just fine. Thanks, Alexei, that was really sweet. It's jolly good. I mean, just as long as you're treated the way you want to be. And funny enough, I only saw him a couple of weeks ago. We were working out the same gym. He's going, hi, how are you? I'm fine. That's just a very typical of him, that you're never quite sure what he was going to do. And yet he was totally sweet. I mean, he really thought about people a lot. We had one shot where I think one of the Daleks was supposed to be shooting at us, and we were ducking down behind this sort of like console thing. And behind us, the wall, which was like a sort of sweeting sheet effect, was supposed to get hit, and things were supposed to fall out. And he said to me, you had this tested? And I said, no, they're pretty good here, they're normally alright. He said, yeah, well, I think that guy's a bit sort of, you know, looks like he's got a bit carried away with all this Dalek shit, you know. I said, oh, yeah. Well, I'll have a word if you like, Lex. He said, I think I would if I was you. He said, it's your hair that will catch on fire, not mine. Yeah, you're right. And so I just sort of popped him and I said, this is a little explosion we've got happening. Well, I'm ducked down with that. I said, is it small? And he said, and because he hesitated, I thought, right. He said, well, it's you know, sort of like medium size. And I said, what size is that? You know, it's don't clear. And I said, I'm sorry, but I mean, I think I ought to see this before we shoot this, because I mean, we're right next to it. So then we get the old BBC excuse, oh, I'm sorry, we've only got enough money to do it once. Which I can't think how many times you hear that. Yeah, I'm sorry you got blown up, but we can only shoot that once. Sure. Get enough raptures. And so I said, I really appreciate it. I said, oh, I'll check upstairs. Look, got a problem here. All this stuff, and finally he says, right, okay, I'll do it for you. And it does this little explosion, and he's standing, to make the point now, because he's getting a little annoyed, he says, I'll stand behind there for you, alright? And he says to me, Reg, blow us up, you know, off again. And he caught fire. Which, there's part of me that goes, ha ha ha, and there's part of me that goes, oh my, you know, and it was somebody like Alexei who picked up that he thought this guy was a bit of a, you know, enthusiast. I've only got one budget to do it once, so let's plug it all in. And there were several times when we sort of came across this sort of slightly nonchalant attitude. I'll tell you a little story about the Cyberman thing. When I was shooting Attack of the Cybermen, there was the bit where the Cyberman was supposed to shoot at me at the end of the episode. And when I'd originally done, I think, way back on Case of Andrew, we had a little tuition about firearms and stuff. And this guy at the time was extremely good. And he took us up to a dummy, and he fired a blank at the dummy, and the dummy's head was like destroyed. And he said, And I just want you to be aware that this might be blanks, that you can still kill somebody with them. And it was a point well made. And he said, and whatever you're doing, there is always a safe limit for each gun, for whatever the type of blank it is you're using, there is a safe limit between you and that blank. So we're working with this other armourer, and I didn't know him, and I'm standing there waiting to do the shot when Simon was about to shoot me. And I said, am I at a safe distance from this? And he looked and went, think so? And I was like, well, I'm not. And then rather, I was. So he starts pacing it out and goes, oh yeah, you're right, another foot. And those are the kinds of things that you just sort of like, you slowly pick up, thanks to people like Alexei and things like that. That really there ought to be sort of like, would it take half an hour crash course somewhere along the line that says, no, if you're doing this kind of show, be aware of this. If you're doing that kind of show, you ought to just go back and run a crash course myself, I think. Right. Breakfast. How did I find working with Frazer Hines? I think Colin and Frazer went through some kind of metamorphosis when they worked together. And they suddenly found themselves in short trousers with catapults. You know what I mean? Pat Troughton and I became like budding victims together. Frazer's like such a kid. In a very sweet way, really. I mean, in an endearing way. I mean, he's not dangerous or anything like that. But he just wanted to play. You know, hey, I'm going to talk to you again. He probably just remembered that last time he was in it, he was a boy. You know? And it was like, hey. And he sort of suddenly, Colin just went through this complete change, and they were like, you know, doing all these gags, and then Colin would go, wait, I did the gags in this show, you know. And there was numerous tricks were played on me. And poor old Pat Troughton would like to nod off in his little wheelchair when he was not doing a scene, because he was like, he'd sit in his wheelchair that he was going to use for the shoot. And he'd like get into his wheelchair and he'd like just begin to sit there. And just as he'd nod off, Frazer or Colin would come up behind him and go, whee! And just wheel him up. And he'd go, and he'd say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put Nicola, would you mind sitting next to me while I sleep? And to watch me. Unbelievable things, trick pens, it just went on forever. And it was fun, but it was like no other shoot that I did there, because they just thought of pranks that had never been thought of before. Oh, yeah. The trick with the bucket of water. Do you want this one? Yeah, all right, okay, right. In The Two Doctors, there's a scene where Peri is unconscious and she's lying on the table, and the doctor's supposed to run in and sort of slap her, Peri, are you alright, Peri? And then he goes over to the sink, and there's a bowl and a jug and some water in the jug. I'm supposed to like take a little tiny bit of water and sprinkle it on my face. So I'm sort of like coming around, Peri, Peri. And I sort of go, and then I'm supposed to say something like, Doctor, what happened? Something like that. I don't remember. Doctor, where am I? One of those sort of lines. And he's supposed to say, never mind, Peri, I've got more important things to do now. And we sort of exit, and that's basically the scene. Now, we're coming up to the infamous supper break, which is at 6 o'clock, and we had to get this shot in, because while we were having our supper break, they were going to change the set. So this shot had to be completed by 6 o'clock. And I should say, 85% of the time, every scene is done in one shot. That's it, you haven't really got time for a retake. You know, it's not in the budget. The only time you ever go again is if basically the technicians have a problem, if the Dalek didn't blow up, if there's something technical like that. But they don't go again with the actors, not at all. I mean, say you said it in gibberish, doesn't matter, carry on. You know. So, well, I'm lying on the table waiting to shoot this scene, and I hear action. In comes Colin, and I hear him sort of say, Peri, you're right. He goes over to the sink, has a few drops of water, comes up, taps my face, Peri. And I'm like, Doctor, where am I? He said, right. the voice comes down from upstairs in the gallery and says, "Sorry now, I've got to go again." I thought, oh, what was wrong? Because normally they say lighting, sound, you know, because they normally give you the reason why, so that you know, well, it's nothing that we did, we don't have to stand in a different place, you know. And so I said to Gary, who was the production manager at the time, I said, Gary, why are we going again? He went, oh, technical stuff. Oh, right, fine, well, okay. So I'm lying down on the table, waiting for Colin to come in and do his bit. Now, unbeknownst to me, this is a complete setup. The whole studio knows that we have it in the can. The shot is fine. Peter Davison, who is shooting in the studio next door, has come over to the gallery to watch. I mean, like, the BBC know this is going to happen. So I'm lying there, and all I can think about is, we've only got one more take, because we've got, like, you know, 4 minutes left to get this in the can before supper. We can't run over, because, like, major, like, the BBC just pull the plug out to tea time and this kind of stuff. And then, oh, once overtime, it's, you know, the scene is 10 seconds over 6 p.m. Actors don't get it, but the technicians do. So I'm thinking, you know, we've got to get this right, can't afford to make any mistakes. So I'm lying on the table, doing my unconscious acting, and I hear action, and I hear Colin come in, and I hear him say, "Peri, Peri," and I'm like, yeah. I hear him go over the sink, and the next thing I know, because I'm lying there with my mouth half open, right, because I'm unconscious, I'm like, I'm drowning. I've got a mouthful of water and I'm soaking. Because I hear this like whoosh. There's nobody laughing on the set. No, and Colin carries on. And I'm like, I'm trying to get my line out, but all I'm doing is choking. Because I'm thinking to myself, I've got 2 minutes to go. It must have been a mistake. I'm not thinking, because I'm being over-professional there. I'm not thinking, so-and-so's have played a trick on me. I'm thinking, Colin must have fallen over. You know, the water or something. You know, I just couldn't work out what it was. All I knew was that I had to get my line out and get off the set. So I'm desperate. I'm trying to get this line out about where am I? And I'm like, and he's like hitting me on the back and all this stuff. And he said, eventually he just said, "Never mind, Peri, let's just get out of here." Right? I just can't say a word. And we get out of there. The whole studio is like really seriously disappointed, because what they're hoping is that I'm going to be saying words that they can beep out and put into like the Christmas show. And I'm not, I'm just carrying on. So there's this deadly harsh at the end of the scene. And I'm like coughing and spluttering outside. And suddenly I see Colin's face and he's in stitches. You know? And I'm looking around and suddenly I see Fraser's tucked in. Everybody's here, and they're all in stitches, right? So, I walk in and I go, right, who's up? Beep, beep, beep. But they'd already just switched the cameras on, so they were absolutely livid that they missed me. But that was sort of like, I mean, it was so planned, because I was thinking about, you can't get water on the floor, it means you have to repaint the floor, you know, everybody could be electrocuted, you know, they planned it, the cables were pushed back, you know, it's like serious planning job. Oh, always.
And did the trial also change so that the charges against the doctor could be dropped? Or did they drop the charges until they found out they were lying?
Yes, I don't know whether actually in the original script they planned to do that, or whether they changed it after they made me alive or not. I'm not actually sure, because I wasn't, although I had the scripts for that episode, I don't know whether, I can't recall whether they changed that or not. Sorry. Next.
Any more questions? Troughton agreed.
The regeneration scene, did you like shoot that here on the floor that you left and Colin came in, or was that on a different day?
No, I think that was a very tense evening for Colin, because Graham Harper's shoots were always like mad. I mean, lots of people sort of are on the brink of suicide while working with Graham, because the man is such a genius in a sense, and that he has this vision in his mind of what he wants. But half the time, because you're running out of time, he likes to change this and do that. And he doesn't really communicate to anybody what it is that his picture is. He just says, do this. And you're like, oh, this isn't what we planned, this isn't someone, you know, which is quite scary. It's all right once you work with a director and you know he's okay, you can trust him, it's going to come out well. But with somebody you haven't worked with, it's like, ooh. So that it had been, somebody's put the kettle on. It had been one of those sort of shoots. So there'd been, everything was running behind time, Graham was changing everything. And the time to do Colin's little bit was getting to be very, very short. And he was obviously feeling nervous because he was like coming into the studio and it was Peter's last day and it was Peter's studio, you know. He was the doctor and we were just waiting to talk and do this bit. It was quite simply the last thing we shot on that evening. And we had like 5 minutes left for Colin to come in and do his bit. And that was it. And because I knew we were so tight for time, there was one awful moment where I nearly had to ask them to go again because that little file that Peter fed me of what was supposed to be bat's milk, they'd taken this file, the production people, and washed it out to make sure it was really, really safe with Dettol. Do you have Dettol? It's an antiseptic lotion, like a Savlon liquid, stuff you wouldn't drink. And they just like washed it out with this, and they hadn't rinsed it. Then they put this milk in, which then sat in the studio for a while, getting warm, and is like taking on this complete Dettol antiseptic milk curd stuff. And when we got to shoot the scene, I'm like, well, I'm doing it again, surprise, surprise, my unconscious acting. And Peter comes up, gives me this file, and I'm supposed to, and I'm wanting to gag on it. I'm just like, back out. And I was like, I thought, I don't know what this is, but this is not safe or pleasant or whatever it was. I wasn't sure what I'd been fed. I was opening my eyes open, I didn't see what it was. I thought, my God, it's some kind of chemical or something. I was like terrified. But I knew I just had to keep going because of the shock. I'm surprised I did those things now. I wonder. But we were running out of time. But we shot the whole thing, all that whole sort of regeneration thing in like 15 minutes. Which is a pretty tight time.
Weren't you afraid that Colin would be a little too enthusiastic in choking you?
No. It's a technical thing. When you know how to do it, you can technically, practically lift the person onto the floor and shake them about. Once you know how to do it technically as a fight thing, you can really, like there's a way you can grab someone's hair. There's a company I do a lot of work for, and we're always doing these sort of like, there's these scenes where two girls are fighting, and it's always my hair that's being pulled out. And people are very worried that, you know, your hair's about to come out in somebody's hand, and as long as you know how to do it technically, and your hand is separating their hand, which is the natural reaction, as long as you have the control of it, as it being throttled, as long as you've got some control as well, or you've agreed some kind of shape, everything has to be set out in advance. As long as you've done it technically, then you're okay. You just have to do all this acting. Well, at the moment, the book I'm reading at the moment is Ransom by J, and I don't know how you would say it, but McInerney or McInerney, do you know him? Bright Lights, Big City. And I've read his other two novels, and I happened to have Ransom just sitting on the shelf. And as I was running out the door last weekend, I thought, oh, I have to read it, and just grabbed it, because it's one of those which has been sitting there for ages and I haven't read. My reading time is limited if you're working a lot, and I don't get to read, unfortunately, as much as I used to, but I tend to like going back and rereading a lot of classics, and I like reading a lot of American writers, because I just find them, like a lot of American playwrights, much more meaty. They just often tend to get in there and talk about what it is that's going on emotionally. But British playwrights like Aikborn, who I adore, and Osborne and stuff, you just like talk about a load of other things, and you're supposed to work out what they really mean, and what they're really talking about. But I really enjoy reading American literature.
Did you do your own stunts?
Yeah, I can't think I ever had anybody stand in for me. I remember the time we were doing Casey Van Rizani and Peter Davison had a stuntman stand in for where he was, like, there was supposed to be one of these little dunes blew up and he got thrown, and then he like sat up into it afterwards. And I looked at that, and this was like 6 weeks after I'd done all my fall down the side of a volcano and drill for 8 hours stuff. And I thought, well, that would have been easy. And I couldn't believe that there was this stuntman there to do that for him. And I thought, you've just obviously got to know that you just turn around and say, excuse me, I'm not doing this, I want a stuntman. You know. But no, I don't think there's anything that I did that I never had a stunt person.
The readers poll of Clean Washington magazine, they voted the case of Anthony the greatest documented story of all time for 5 straight years in the crime sheet.
Probably if I sat down and watched every single Doctor Who episode ever, all in one go, then I could probably be more objective about it. It's difficult to be objective if I haven't seen them all at the same time. And if you're in one, of course you're biased and you'd like it to be very popular. I do think it was a wonderful fairy tale, and I do think Graham was very lucky in getting people like Christopher Gable in on it, and I do think he is a very talented man. And it's all I can say is it's lovely that it was voted the top for 5 years, and that makes me very happy.
This year dropped to third. That's still pretty good.
Is that good? Oh, yeah. Yes?
Just you with the camera.
I think I've forgotten the question.
Troughton agreed.
I was wondering, you're talking about how studio time goes so limited and everything else, but recently in England they put out, there was some fan advice and somebody wanted minutes on Barrows with like 25 minutes of extra footage. So when you eventually saw it, you say, well, where are all these scenes that I shot and weren't fit in? Why? They knew it was supposed to be like about a 90-minute story. Why did they have like a sex where every half an hour of stuff?
It's difficult. I mean, from my point of view, I never really looked at the show and thought, oh gosh, where have all my scenes gone? Because it was very rare that I sort of lost anything. They'd sort of like maybe tighten up a scene. But if you take a scene that, when you write it as an author, runs a minute, just as you read it to yourself on the page, and then you give it to a couple of actors and they go, well, I'm sorry, at this point it's really very relevant and this is very dramatic, and you realise that halfway through this line the person ought to really stop and think about what it is and then go on with what it was they were saying. And the dramatics take longer than perhaps the original script timed itself, with just a writer sitting there with a stopwatch going, and then listen this and then this and that, character 2, blah 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 blah. And he's not putting in the motion. And it's like, how long do you time a person running down a corridor? And all these things are just difficult to plan and work out. Now, it does surprise me that you end up with like an extra 25 minutes, but it does depend. If you just like putting an extra minute on every scene you've got, it soon builds up.
Time for one more question, right in the middle there. Okay, yeah.
Yes, I understand you know of Cameron in the past, and those kind of aspects.
This is true.
So, for Cameron this year.
Right. Well, I'm doing another pantomime at Christmas, and I'm doing another Cinderella. But my agent said to me, would you like to do anything other than Cinderella? And I went, because I'm sort of like destined to play Cinderellas and Snow Whites for another 10 years, and then if I'm really lucky, I'll get to be a fairy godmother. Whereas I would much rather be a witch, because it's a more interesting part to play. But you also have to go with the way you're going to cast, and pantomimes are sort of stereotypical in that sense. But this time, I've got a say in the writing of it, and I'm doing Cinderella at Guildford in Surrey, which is like 30 minutes outside London. And I'm going to play Dandini, and they're going to sort of like punch all the jokes on Dandini. It's going to be quite a nice cast, so it should be fun. That's it. Okay, I think I'm off to sign. Yes, sign. And Depending on what's going to be signed, I shall be over there. Wherever that is called. Thank you very much.
On your sheet last night, I saw Rizzo, but I didn't see your first name, so I didn't know what to say. That's really fascinating. It's quite a bit about the background stuff like that. It's unique.
Funny was saying there was a magazine that he double checked it that said, I got off to Germany to make an exercise video. I've never even been to Germany. Yeah. Right. Hi.
All this stuff on tape. I mean, you have this whole tape.
This is my artwork.
Right.
Tom Baker.
Yes. He's pretty good at that Tom Baker guy.
Fantastic. You thought he just acted, but this time he just acted, but he actually does a really good rendition of himself, especially when he's hanging on top of something. Yes. Cool. Yes, and well, we're today with Acid, who's actually taping right now, but Acid actually managed to put his third arm around his back and onto the video camera. Like so, yeah, there you go. Darren was just down there, right? Just the Alex are now, invading the universe and everything. Like, we thought of new Marcus is now after the Galactic Wars finished, and we still these dead shells of Daleks. We thought, well, what are we going to do with them? So we said, well, why don't we shrink wrap them and sell them as kids' toys? There's a little Dad Ross over there. We actually had to shrink wrap him too.
And 7 minutes. Those are the 7s.
But,
Mike, do you have anything to say to the, anything to say to the camera?
Why the chameleon, sir?
Any venereal comments?
oh, we just a veneer reveal.
That's what you were talking about.
Veneer shares with my company too.
Anybody else want to shoot the deal with him? Our shoulder's getting tired.
Okay. Do you mind if I You gave me quite a wave.
You're expecting someone else? I'm sorry, there isn't one word that makes you sound rather egotistical, young lady.
What happened?
Change, my dear. It seems I got home too soon.
Would you want to?
No.
Would you want to work with Nicola Bryant? Or have you?
Oh, yes, I would love to. I adore Nick, and we've never worked together, and we get on so well. We've done several conventions together, especially one particular one where we're all like bosom buddies. But no, I absolutely adore Nick, and he's utterly charming. And of course, I used to watch all the episodes that had the Brigadier, and I would love to have done one, and to still do one, because I just think he's an utterly charming man off screen, and a lovely character on screen. So, yes, please.
Yes, our friend with the lens.
Okay, you said...
I'm going to see if I can rep something later for it. No, I insult people. I can't do that. I'm terrible at things.
Okay, you said this was your second Canadian convention. How would you compare it to the one you did in Vancouver and would you like to comment on other conventions you've done around the world?
Well, it's the other side of Canada. I've never seen that before. It's definitely a smaller convention. It's nice to see black squirrels again, because I've never seen those before, and I think they thought I was totally loony when I was sort of jumping up and down in the car park near Ocean World in Vancouver, going, what is that? What's that? You know, it's a squirrel. God, it's so stupid. And wrap with a photo. And I wish I had more time to spend here. I mean, I had more rest time in Vancouver. And the first thing that blew my mind was the fact that you could like be walking in a park and by the sea, by the lakes, boating in the sunshine, and then half an hour later you could be up a mountain skiing. And I was like, oh, this is great. You know, I've never been anywhere like this in my life. And everybody was so friendly, and it's just like that. I don't know. Everybody is so friendly. I spent one crazy night shopping with Chrissy here, and trying to run around and sort of like buy Christmas presents for my family. I know this sounds premature, but I will be working at Christmas, and it makes a lot of sense when I know my particular time schedule. I was trying to work my way through my family and buy something from somewhere that they haven't been. And although my sister's very best friend all through her life came from Calgary. And everybody was so helpful. I mean, officially the shop should have closed, and I'm still going, I'm sorry, I don't know if I want this in blue or red. You know, I'm doing all this. They're all so friendly. Whereas I'm absolutely convinced if I had been in the same situation in London, I would have been in the cold shoulder. You know, unless the particular person working in the shop recognised me, which does happen. But I mean, as just a shopper, I mean, I find that the service here and in America is just so much easier. I'm sort of a at all possible costs, other than totally being trodden over, which I've given up for Lent now, I would rather avoid any kind of friction whatsoever. But when you're shopping in England, and when you're sort of like trying to get on a train, and there's a wonderful story I'd like to tell you, but I can't use the exact words that are on this train. This is a director friend of mine, who, not a big star, he's a successful director, and he does a lot of work, was going to take the British Rail from London to Manchester. And you can get breakfast on the trains that are sort of intercity trains, and it costs something in the region of £15 to have breakfast on this train. And on long journeys, there are, and yes, it's not worth it, I can tell you, but all you get is a pink tablecloth and a sort of like old carnation. And, but you can, there are 2 sittings on long journeys, and this particular director decided to go to the second sitting, because he just wanted to read through a couple of things before he went to have his breakfast. And he got on the train, and he went to this table, and obviously somebody else had breakfast there first, and had put more breakfast on the tablecloth than they'd probably eaten. And it was absolutely filthy. And he looked at the waiter and said, excuse me, can I have another tablecloth, please? And the waiter just went, he didn't say anything. So he said, excuse me, I'm sorry, but it's rather messy. Could I have another tablecloth, please? And the waiter just went, so now I'm thinking, well, do I have to call for a head steward or what? I mean, where are things going? So, excuse me, but please, could I have another tablecloth? And this guy went, oh! And this is somebody who's serving you, I mean, like, all you've asked is for a clean tablecloth. Now, that is perhaps a little extreme, but there is a great deal of that in England. There's also a great deal of resentment, I think, of the success of a lot of Canada and America, which is very, very sad. And people criticise sayings like "have a nice day" and "enjoy" and things like that. Say, "Oh, they're so terrible, they're so phony. Who would have anything like that in Britain?" And I would rather be greeted by somebody who is going to like serve me a cup of coffee or help me find a book or a present for my mother or something like that, who's going to say, "Have a nice day" or "enjoy," or even if it does look like a cartoon smile. I'd rather be greeted by that. What do you want to do? We'll close in 5 minutes, And at the moment there's a real problem, I think, because of the recession, etc., etc. I don't mean to harp on something too much, but because of that, there is this attitude problem in the country at the moment, which has got worse and worse and worse. And I just found it very refreshing to come to Vancouver, and it was very refreshing to come here yet again to Toronto, and not be greeted that way when you're just walking around. And it's the same in the States, although I think it's perhaps a little more forceful there. I just love it here. I'm not sure about the heat weather working there. One has to just give it a shot, and if it's as bad as I've heard, I'll be somewhere else. But I've really enjoyed coming here, and I just think I'd love to do a lot more creative conventions. I think we'll like it. I'm going to make one small announcement here. Anyway, I haven't made an announcement here. I made it at the big American conventions. But my name is Nicola. And I perfectly accept that this might be a difficult thing to say because it's not a name that you know. And I understand that you know Nicole. And that Nikki is also an accepted name because it's a shortened version of Nicole. And I would much rather be called Nikki than Nicola. So if it's not too much trouble, I'll leave it there. Okay, we'll start again. I'm sorry I forgot your name. I know you're Colin's brother. Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I'd love to. I mean, if actually it was a choice between here and LA, I would choose here first. But I have full citizen rights to work in the States. which means I'm technically a green card holder, so yes, I can come here and do theatre. I could only come here on a very short work permit and do maybe the odd bit of television or film, but I don't have any rights to live here. If it was a choice and there weren't all these barriers and things getting in people's way, then I would definitely choose to come to Canada to live and work, as opposed to LA. Just got it right there. But no, truthfully, I would. But I'm not in that position. I would love to be. But maybe if things go extremely well in LA, maybe some nice person will say, yes, you can come and live here, which would be nice. Dan. Oh.
And you're just finished showing Case of Personification, and the last part had Peter Davison carrying on the TARDIS. And he's reminded very often when he really killed himself doing that. I was wondering how you felt during this.
Well, the funny thing is, you see, because it depends. There were two acting conflicts, I suppose, going on there, although Peter and I have actually sat and discussed it. Peter wanted me to almost practically be holding on to him, which meant that I'll just use you here, Larry. But I would have been like this, okay? And sort of, but if you were actually unconscious, and we were talking about this, Peri is about to die, then you wouldn't hold on to somebody like that. Exactly. And that was the way that Graham also saw that particular moment. So what happened was, I started with my shoulder, my head on Peter's shoulder, but he like kind of let me slip down because I didn't think he could hold me up there. And so I'm like, well, I can't really become conscious again in order to crawl back up his shoulder. So I was kind of left with this sort of like, it wasn't comfortable, I can tell you. Your neck sort of hanging out the end of his arm, and he's sort of going, trying to get you back up again. But I mean, either you are totally relaxing your body in a way and being a dead weight, or you're saying his character is not in this particular state. And the point was, as far as the writer and the director was concerned, yes, I was in this state. Now, I didn't care how Peter and I worked that out, that I mean, he dragged me by my hair to get me there. But so long as we did it, and that Peri was in that particular state was what was important to me. Peter told me, come back, Christina, did you have to weep for the last month, you know? It's like, he just like found it very, very difficult, but then he just did. It was just two people's ideas, a slight conflict. Although we never actually sat down and said, please do this, please don't do that. I was going by what the director and the writer had said to me. And afterwards, Peter said to me, why didn't you help me? Why didn't you hold on? And I was going, because I'm supposed to be unconscious, Peter. And that was basically the situation. Right, I mean, it varied considerably as to like how much was done in the studio and how much was filmed. We usually got, like the first day would be a read-through, and the new people on the show would come through, read through their part with you. There'd be a timing, roughly one would go, that might last longer than we'd anticipated, etc., etc. And then there'd be 2 or 3 days rehearsal, and a producer's run, and then we go into the studio. And that would be 2 lots of 3 days. And that would be basically a whole story shot. But if there was any film work involved, it's much, much slower, because in the studio, you take a scene and you film it once, and it's covered in 4 different angles, and then they cut that in. And on film, you have 1 camera. So if you've got a 3-hander, you have to shoot that scene minimum 4 times, perhaps 5. Because you need a cover shot which contains all the actors involved. You need singles on all the actors, and you may need a point of view because somebody else is hearing this conversation, or a long shot, etc. So that can take a long time setting up between shots. In England, it'll pour down between shots. You'll start at the first shot when the sun is out, and then you have to wait for the next one to the sun coming out. And you've got numerous problems when you're filming outside. So it really depended immensely upon how much we were filming outside, because obviously like things like The 2 Doctors and Planet of Fire, we had a week's filming away, and like 50% of the show was on film. I'm trying to remember the one we did the least amount of film on. Sorry. Expense. It's purely money. Surprise, surprise. Well, they started to, when I filmed Trial of a Time Lord, they actually started to use OMV instead of film, which is outside broadcast. So it's actually videotape linked to a unit which is like sitting there. So you've got these cables running down the forest for 3 miles to reach this camera. But we were still only using one camera, although it's faster than using film for some peculiar reason. But it's cheaper, that's the main thing as well, because you also get this quality, which you may notice, that you'll see a nice shot and think, oh, that looks nice. And it's an outside shot, it's on film, and then you see the same actor in the same clothing, and the same makeup, and the same look, and they're on video, and it just doesn't look the same, because there's something magical about film, and video just makes things so much more flat. I mean, from my point of view, I wish the whole series was shot on film. But it's to do with time, and it's to do with money, unfortunately.
When and if you find time to relax, which sports do you participate? I know you dance, you used to dance anyway.
You're a male, yes.
Which sports do you do?
I like to play tennis, though earlier this year, 3 months ago, I hurt my ankle, so I haven't been able to play tennis in 3 months, which has been very annoying. I'm a very, very keen participant in my gym, which I've also had to completely change and join another gym, which is hence the fact that I was working out with Alexei Sayle 2 months ago. And I'm not allowed to do any kind of like major sports for the last 2 months, having torn these ligaments. But basically, I love all kind of sort of gym aerobics and all that kind of stuff, and I love tennis. I don't like squash particularly. And that's it really. I don't do that much sport. I've got 2 dogs, and I love walking. And like buying books that show old walks where people used to go, and I found an old monastery walk, and I just love getting away and walking for a day, which is really, really nice.
Our friend with the veins.
I see.
Okay, when Colin Baker was the Doctor, I used to hear rumours that he was...
It's not true. He never did.
Okay, this was on John Craven's news round.
Oh.
I heard that he was going to have a mechanical cat like Canine. Was there any truth to this, and if so, what happened?
Well, I must say I must have missed that episode of John Craven's news round. I never heard anything about it. I mean, I know Colin had this thing with cats, and a cat on the list of hell. I think the BBC were completely against bringing any kind of mechanical dog, robot, flea into the show, because they cause them so much problems. I mean, I had a lot of trouble shooting Chameleon just on that one story that I had to work with him, but as far as they were concerned, they didn't want another mechanical companion again, because if you're working on that tighter shoestring budget and that tighter time limit, then you don't want to be held up by the fact that, you know, I'm sorry, the battery pack's worn out on this thing and it's not going to work again. It just caused so many problems. So I would have imagined it might be one of those sort of like weird stories that sneak out, or when it was complete untruths, or even, heaven forbid that I should ever admit the BBC do that, one of their publicity stunts.
In Troughton time where it's obvious that your costumes and all that were much nicer than the previous series. And I was wondering how much increasing you have in the
A lot. John gets very defensive, especially if we're sitting on a panel together talking about costume. Because he says to me, well, you are the one that turned up in a pair of shorts and a leotard for your very first shoot. Which is that sort of photograph of me in a pale blue shorts and a white leotard top. And I said, yes, but I mean, I have to say, I came from a very, very conservative background. And all my clothes could have as easily been worn by my mother as they could have by me. And this pretty self, I didn't know, told me that I had to come to this publicity shoot And I had to wear some very short, very tight clothing. And I didn't have anything. And I said, well, like what? He said, well, then do you have a clingy dress or something? I said, no, I don't. And I didn't know what to buy. And so he said, well, go through your wardrobes and come up with something. So I rang him up and I said, well, I've got a pair of shorts. That's the shortest thing I have. And the most clingy thing I have is like dance clothes, like leotards. He said, great. So that is the reason I turned up in those two things, which is not a combination one would normally put together. And I did buy that little pink thing that I had on it, like all-in-one shorts thing, because I thought, well, I'd better get something. But these were total instructions that I was given. Well, John obviously liked the look of leotards and shorts, and I think he'd been happy if I just stayed in that bikini. But I was very unhappy, and I mean, having caught pneumonia and got frostbite when I was filming the Caves of Amazoni, I mean, that was serious as far as I was concerned. I didn't want to go through that kind of agony again, because actually once you've had frostbite, every time you go out and it's that cold again, you are in agony. You are in a lot of pain. So I didn't want to go through that again. And excuse me, but I forget the name of the costume designer, very nice gentleman on Timelash. And he said to me, well, what kind of costume do you want? And he actually asked me. So I said, well, like boots and trousers and a big coat. This is like covered from here to here. And he said, of course, of course. So I got this outfit made up and I liked it. And I got on the studio floor to shoot the first day's filming on Timelash. And this message came down in the box. Would Nicola please get into her costume? Well, I'm in it. And I mean, I liked it as a costume. I don't say it's what I walk around in, but it definitely had a costume feel to it. And so this costume designer said to the box, well, she's in her costume. Well, all hell was let loose. And John came down on the floor and said, well, we don't have any more money in the budget, and this means you're going to have to wear this till the end of the season. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll wear it for the next story. And so he said, well, all we can do is give you a coat. And I was like, a coat and trousers, I love it. So it was actually the fact that this costume designer was brave enough to listen to me in the first place that happened, and that was the first big change in my costume. But when we came back, I think several things have changed, and I don't think John really wanted to cut my hair. So I used to have long hair before I started the series, and I had it cut to do a press call. And what John wanted was this sort of like, he wanted a shot. If you look back on Planet of Fire, Peri's flicking through her passport, and there's an old shot of her with pigtails in black and white. And he liked the idea, or makeup artist convinced him, that it would be nice if Peri had short hair, because I was originally to start out as a bit of a tomboy. Whatever happened there, I don't know, but somebody liked high heels. I say that I'm weighing on myself, but not when I want to run around the studio when I'm playing that part. But the makeup artist convinced John that the best thing to do was to actually cut my hair off. And now I was totally unconvinced that this was actually going to make me look the way he wanted me to look, because he wanted me to look unbelievably young. He wanted to look totally naive and innocent, although she was like 21 years old, and then to mature within the space of like 3 or 4 months as she was in the TARDIS. Well, the obvious thing to me to do was, if you wanted somebody to look really young, to just start plaiting their hair and doing all that kind of thing. So he also said to me, do you have an old passport shot of yourself with a passport? And I said, no, I don't, but I plaited my hair, I found a shirt that sort of looked remotely school uniform. We went down to a passport photo booth, those little things, and took some old black and white shots, because I mean, it would look older. And they chopped my hair off in the series, and I didn't like that, etc., etc. And we got to film the first day in Lanzarote, and John looked at the passport and he said, oh, isn't that sweet? sweet! How old were you then? And I said, about 2 weeks younger than I am now. And he was absolutely devastated. And you could see, like, sort of running through his mind, oh no, if that's all it took, I would never cut her hair off. And so I think he'd accepted that you could play the part of Peri in trousers, and you could also play the part of Peri with slightly longer hair. So with the break happening, he'd accepted that I was allowed to grow my hair, and when we started the new season, he said, slightly reluctantly, a little coyly, what would you like to wear? And at the time, I'd had a photo shoot done, which some of you might have seen. I think actually the programme, the front cover of this is based on a shot where I've got a white jacket with some bright flowers on next to Bex in the car, and it was for that particular shoot. I said, well, I love these little trousers that are just like slightly too short and stuff. They're really, really comfortable. You can run around in them. They're really nice. He said, okay. And he took those trousers and got copies made for the second costume, the Time Lord. And I went up and bought the grey trousers. But it was very, very nice to actually be consulted. And I think most people noticed there was a sort of big change in the costume and the look. Because for the first time I had like something to say about it. And there's a funny little story that after I'd left the series, 2 weeks later, John's production assistant, Sarah Lee, had her wedding, and I went to her wedding, and in the reception, John came up to me and went, wow, Nicola, you look great, what have you done? You've lost weight? And I said, no, it's just I don't know how to dress. He did laugh, don't worry. But I think it was just a case that we had completely different tastes about what I should have worn. Oh, you're doing something. Yes, you're in charge of this, you're noticing.
Yeah, didn't you have a question? Yeah, you feel Alexei Sayle that Jim kind of seems to be shows here in Ontario. He doesn't really look like a guy who would
Exactly what?
I see some of Alexei Sayle's shows here. He doesn't look like a guy who works out too much.
No, I know. I was surprised to see him at the gym, I must admit. This particular gym that I've just had to go to is actually for people with injuries. So he might very well be there for some injury, but I didn't want to say, what have you messed up? You know, it's like very obvious I was there for my ankle, and like David McCullum was there because apparently a long time ago he broke his back, which I had no idea about. And this particular gentleman has been straightening his back for several years. So it's actually a place that is not for like, hey, we all want to look like, you know, LA bunnies, but it's a case of, I've seriously injured myself, so how can I get this to work right again? So it's not a sort of like trendy gym, although there's a lot of actors who end up doing crazy things, who injure themselves and end up going to this gym. You're right, it doesn't look like somebody works out at all.
What was it like recording stuff back?
That was fun. That was really good fun, and I think Doctor Who should have series on the radio, because I mean, one of the letdowns for me as a child and me as an actor was the fact that sometimes those little monsters had a lot to be desired, and I would like there to have been a little more money spent on them. But you know, there we go. I think part of the endearment of Doctor Who is the fact that it was made on a shoestring. I thought that the nice thing about radio is the whole Hitchcock effect, isn't it? You imagine how awful that monster can be, and your imagination takes you 10 times further than any kind of reality could ever take you. I mean, I remember like hideous, but you actually wonder how much further you'd actually taken yourself before you saw that monster. I mean, sure, it depends upon the imagination of the person listening to the radio, but I think it would have been wonderful to have done a nice series of Doctor Who on the radio. No idea. They probably sent me a form and offered me 2p and I didn't sign it. You wouldn't believe how many times that happened. It could be something like that, or maybe they just didn't want to. I've no idea. I wish you did. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I keep in touch with several people. Some obviously are a great deal more than others. I'm very much in touch with Colin. I went to stay with John recently, John and Gary, while I was touring in The Great Gatsby. I saw Fiona Cummings recently, and Ian Frazer, and I see David Gates occasionally because we ended up at the same charity dues. And one of my dearest friends, or two of my dearest friends, both worked at Doctor Who after I'd left. One is Dursley McClendon. You'll have to rush over and watch your videos to see which one he was in. He worked with Sophie after I'd left. And the other is Mark Greenstreet. And both of those worked at Doctor Who afterwards. And actually I introduced both of them to John and Turner. I was doing a show with Dursley McClendon, and he came to see us and said, "Oh, that's a nice young man." I said, "Yes, he is, go on, give him a job." And who else do I see? I suppose those are the people I stay in contact with most, but I mean, I sort of like, I don't think there's anybody I walked away from or I don't stay in contact with, which is nice.
How did you like working with Patrick Troughton and Frazer Hines and the two doctors?
Well, it was great. I don't want to repeat too much of what I might have said in another panel, but for me it was a great privilege to work with Patrick Troughton, because for me I thought, well, you know, to work with three doctors in the time that I've been working in the show is actually pretty marvellous. And when I met John Pertwee, he said, "Oh yes, we should definitely work together," so that was nice. So by the fact that I wasn't going to work with Tom Baker, I think that I would have done rather well, because I couldn't work with William Hartnell, unfortunately it's past his time. It was nice to do a special, it was nice to be in Seville, and it was nice to sort of swap companions, or swap doctors. But Colin and Frazer were absolutely crazy and behaved like little schoolboys, and Pat Troughton and I became sort of bosom victims, I suppose, is the best description we could come up with. But it was lovely, it was very enchanting. I didn't really see much of Bonnie's Langford's episodes. I did see Kate O'Mara imitating Bonnie Langford. And she also told me she intended to do so. And the thing is that once I finished Doctor Who, I was working quite furiously myself and really didn't get to see very much. And there's also a part of you that I found it terribly painful the first day that I woke up and I wasn't going to work with all these wonderful people that I'd made as my friends. And I felt totally lost and thought, oh dear, was this a wise move and all of that. And it was very, very difficult at first to sort of come to terms, although it was what I wanted to do, because I wanted to get out there and do other things, and I realised as an actress, you know, that is the nature of the business. I missed them all terribly. So there was part of me that didn't particularly want to sort of turn on the television screen and hurt myself. But the other thing was that I was working. And I saw Kate O'Mara told me that she was going to put this in touch with Mel, and everybody made sure that I didn't miss this by ringing me up and leaving me 10 messages on my answer phone. The unfortunate thing is, I mean, I know Bonnie slightly socially, and we've never had any trouble getting on together, and I don't know her frankly well. I can't say we're close friends at all. The unfortunate thing was I had an immense amount of hate mail from Bonnie Langford sent to me, which is actually rather difficult. And I understand that perhaps it was from people who felt particularly loyal to me, but it was very strange receiving a great deal of mail about how much people hated watching her. And although you want to be good at what you did and you want people to like you for what you did, you don't want to actually hear that they didn't like the person who followed you. You'd like to hear, oh, I still enjoy Doctor Who, etc., but I really miss you, which is sort of nice. But I received a lot of mail about Bonnie, and so, and even before she started work for Love, because she had such a reputation in England for playing sort of obnoxious characters, really, that I think she sort of started with a bit of a sort of handicap there. And so I would receive a lot of mail about not wanting her to join the series before she even began. So I found it in lots of ways more diplomatic to sort of avoid the whole issue and just get on with what I was doing. Though, as a person, she seems utterly charming and kind of sweetly childish, which is very strange because we're the same age. And I felt like I was her mother. You know, I felt very sort of paternal about it. This is the show, don't worry about it, everything will be okay. I didn't actually really see much of her, but I don't see why she wouldn't have done a good job because she's actually a good actress.
So
how are your muscles still feeling?
I'm waiting for his arm tomorrow.
So was your decision to leave the show, or was it the producers?
As I said, when I joined the show, it was a sort of like 3-year contract on that I signed. It was entirely their option. So actually, after the hiatus, John could have turned around and I could have been, anything could have happened to me, I could have not come back to do Trial of a Time Lord. But John said to me, do you want to go? And if so, how do you want to go? And my problem was that, although I'd gone off and done some theatre, I'd already been associated with Doctor Who for over 3 years. And if I was to stay and do another season after that, they weren't going to be able to join the Mother Companion until the following season. By the time I left, I would have been there for like 4.5 years. I would have outstayed 2 of the Doctors, which would have, I think, got things in the wrong proportion. I sort of like convinced myself that it was time to be brave and just say, yes, thank you very much. And like, I wished I had made the season that we didn't get to make, but I have to accept that maybe on figures I haven't made as many episodes, but I have been there for that length of time. So yes, it was my decision to kind of like accept that and say, yes, I would like to go. I think it's probably the best thing. But it was an extremely difficult move to make.
You had a question at the back?
Was this the other one that was the same one as mentioned yesterday? I'm afraid, I have to confess, I was given this question yesterday. I don't know what it was. All I know is I can assure you that it must have been something that could have been said on screen because of the fact that my mother lip reads because she's deaf, and being aware of the fact and having been caught out several times that people do lip read what you say. I know I would have said something that would have been sort of acceptable. So I'd say, I can't wait to get home and play this back and find to remind myself about what it was I said. I think, if I can imagine the emotion behind it, I was probably not insulting him back, but actually sort of slightly reprimanding him for saying what he'd said. It's fine with me now, I can tell you. I can't wait to get back to find out. I have to come back and tell you all. Okay. My biggest project is called Pack Up, and it's what I'm doing at the moment, which is my life, my belongings and everything, because I'm emigrating. I might be going back to do some small work on a telly-series at the moment, because what I don't want to do is actually move myself out of London for the next couple of months, because it's a big, big job packing up, 10 years of your life in London. I've got a pantomime which I'm doing in November, which I begin, and I'm playing Dandini, hooray, for a change, and in Cinderella, and so it's a lot of thigh slapping and all this stuff going on. And that's really it. I've set up a company this year, which I could always go back and do small work for, and in fact I was asked to go to the Edinburgh Festival instead of coming here, but I decided to come here. I was offered that job a week before I could come here. So I said, I think it's a bit late to cancel out on all those lovely people, so I cancelled the Edinburgh Festival, which has quite a lot of kudos in England, and it was a slightly dodgy moment, which I thought. right, okay. I thought it was a bit late to sort of say, sorry. So this company that I started, Tell a Banana Company, which is based from a company called News Review, which are part of the people who write for Spitting Image. And they go back and do some work for them, because they also, just before I left, asked me to direct a show for them. And I said, no, I don't want to direct. But they're convinced that I would be very good as directing the show. So I may sort of like direct and act a bit, or co-direct. But there's no firm plans other than hopefully we can come to LA in the second week in January. Yes. Apparently there was one. I missed that particular episode because I caught like most of them. There was one episode and I don't remember what it relates to. But they had the Doctor and Peri running up and down corridors. And just sort of saying, you know, Doctor, Doctor. A very, very funny thing is I went to see, we have a lot of alternative comedy in London, and I went to see a group of very good up-and-coming alternative comedians at a theatre. And one of their stage gags was, they had a hat, and during the interval there was this little bit you could tear out of your programme, and you could write a situation, like, you know, giant bird stuck in an ashtray or something, you know, just anything you could think of, you know, flea on the planet Mars. You could come up with any situation you wanted, and these guys were going to do an improvisation on it. And so you put in all these little labels, and somebody put in a label of the Doctor and Peri go shopping on Mars or something. And this is like, you know, I'm sitting there in the audience going, whoa, you don't know I'm here. And then the actors did this scene, and the actress who ended up playing my part, whose name is Kit Hollaback, who's an American actually, she just kept falling over all the time. She just kept going, oops, oh sorry Doctor, sorry, oops. There's all these high heels feel the same to me, oops, oops. And everyone in the audience was laughing, they were extremely funny, and I was rolling over around myself. But like after the show, in the bar, a friend of mine was actually had produced the show and said, "Hi, I thought you might like to meet Peri from Doctor Who," and you're going, "Oh God, oh God." You know, he's just trying to be funny, and they're saying, "Well, you were very funny. Don't worry about it." But that sort of whole Spitting Image and that sort of alternative comedy slot, Doctor Who is absolutely sort of like prime subject for them, really. It's easy target.
I understand you do several different dialects.
Yes.
What do you care to demonstrate?
Not particularly. What am I going to do? I'll give you my Sandra Dickinson. Do you all know Sandra? Well, there was a commercial. There was a commercial in England, I don't know whether you ever saw it, but it was for saucepans. Peter was sitting in his kitchen at home, which was like his sort of modern kitchen, you know, making dinner or whatever. And Sandra was like calling in to say that, you know, I'm coming home and, you know, get dinner ready. And she would like be calling in on her to watch. And she used to just sort of go, "Peter, put the kettle on, I'm coming home." You know, and I used to follow her around the studio all the time going, Peter, sorry, Peter, could you just go over the script? I don't understand why it says Peri falls down. Can you explain it to me, Peter? Sure! And one particular Christmas, he had his mother-in-law there, and apparently Peter and Sandra and her mother sound exactly the same, which is amazing. And Peter came into her husband and was like, "I don't want to go back. I don't want to go home." And we're going, "What's the matter?" Peter said, "I'm sorry, but I can't listen to that all day." So I think, "Okay, Peter, we can stay here. We could work on this scene. Oh, they're not in that one. So that was my best.
How did you choose that?
I did. So that's my one token you'll get to do. Right.
I see.
Okay, I heard another rumour that Sandra Dickinson was going to be Peter Davison's companion. Was there any truth in that rumour?
Oh, I had an answer there and I stopped it. I've never heard that one. I don't think it's very likely. But who knows? I don't know.
Close to regeneration.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. No. That's the trouble with that. No, I haven't been approached about doing another Mythmakers yet. Although, I mean, actually, a long, long time ago, they said to me, oh, yours is a bit out of date now, shall we do another one? But as yet, I haven't sort of arranged to do anything with them yet.
How was it like working with
Anthony was utterly charming. I mean, it's really bad. There's no gossip for you. All these people are frightfully nice. I really enjoyed working with Anthony, and he was just like, you're nodding your head there, Joshua. It was great to work with. One of the sort of the old school, and I also worked with him on stage because he played my father in the pantomime, the first pantomime that I did actually. I think sometimes he found us all a bit too much, and he'd say, "Oh, why don't you young and slow down," and things like that. But he was very easy to work with. There wasn't any sort of difficulty. And he wouldn't sort of like come out and party with us. He was sort of like a very quiet person. He didn't want to go out to dinner at the end of a shoot or anything. But he was a very easy person to get on with. And he didn't make me feel insecure when I began, which is obviously, I would have been a very, very easy target. Thank you.
What did you think of the actress's portrayal of Peri in the Doctor Who hoax done by the Leonard Henry show?
Was it, who was it who played that? Didn't French do that?
I didn't see the credits to it, so.
Oh, right. But she used to run up and down the corridor screaming, didn't she?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I actually put a line in when I began the show. John had said to me, our budget is we get 2 corridors and that's it. We get 2 sewers, we get 2 tunnels, we get 2, that's about as many as we get. And we have to shoot them to make them look different. And I said to him, well, why don't you just have a line that covers this? Because we get a lot of mail about people saying, I know you've walked up and down the same corridor 8 times, because I could tell. And I said, well, why don't you put a line in? And he said, well, what kind of line? And I said, well, if every time my character, and I said, you don't have to hold up the dialogue anywhere. If it's on something where there would have been some action, like I'm climbing down the ladder into the sewers, or we're just walking along looking for rats, or whatever it is. If every time my character goes, oh, I don't know, Doctor, all these corridors look the same to me. And if it's covered by the fact that you've said some kind of line like that, because that is the truth of the situation, then you haven't got any problems. So we started slipping this line in, and sometimes it's like completely muttered away and nobody can hear it. But in all the episodes where we ended up with those 2 tunnels, 2 sewers, 2 corridors, you'll somewhere along the line find her going, oh, all these corridors look the same to me, or something. So,
that's actually some questions from nobody who's asked one before.
Did you get to know Mark Strickson really well?
Yes, yes. Not desperately well, because we only obviously got to do one story together. And Mark, I think, was very much like I was when I finally got to do the show. And he was like, yes, it was time for him to go, etc., etc. But he was very sad to be going. And that was definitely reflected in the mood of the whole of the time that we were sort of working together. Our first sort of meeting really was the day he had to like pick me out of the water, which was a little bizarre really. And unfortunately, Mark, for reasons that I'm not going to name at the moment, had a little difficulty getting me out of the water. And the first time he went to pick me up, and like I'm in his arms, and so like if I'm sort of like this ghastly V shape, and my sort of coccyx is right at the bottom of it, and we're walking along, and he's sort of like staggering along, and he dropped me smack bang onto this rock. And it's one of the few times in my life where I thought I'm going to black out. And there was this sensation of this like dark navy blue ink coming up over my eyes. I thought, here we go, because it was like, oh, you could hear the crack of my coccyx the other side of the beach. Because the makeup artists and everybody like moved themselves to the other side of the beach because they was either way filming. And they were like, oh, and I was like running up, you're right, I just didn't think I could speak for like 10 minutes. But that was like one of our first things that Mark and I edited together. So it was like, well, thanks, Mark. Nice knowing you. And of course, he felt terribly guilty because he hadn't meant to do it. And we got on very, very well.
I guess that's all the time that we have left. Thank you, us to bring to capture frankly. Also a big chance.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking lessons from Barry's.
So anyways, let's thank God.
Longer. I would love to have stayed, but I couldn't get a flight out either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday to England from here, so I'm going right to all the airlines. Thank you very, very much for having me, as we say in England. And I look forward to seeing you again soon, and thanks for being sentimental. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Kind of funny we also say that here. Yeah.